I'm Eric Bowling in for Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Let's get right to our top story. Has Donald Trump changed his position on deporting illegal immigrants in the U.S.? That seems to be the message his campaign has been sending the last few days. Both sides are scrambling to figure out exactly where Trump now stands on the critical issue and whether this will help or hurt his election bid. Joining us now on the phone with reaction from Wasilla, Alaska, former Alaska governor and the 2008 Republican vice presidential nominee, Sarah Palin, who supports Donald Trump. So, Governor Palin, thanks for joining us. What do you think of this new, I guess he's calling it, softening stand on deporting illegals? Your thoughts?
Well, candidate Trump didn't garner a lot of enthusiastic support by being soft on anything, but by having a still spine and doing what he knows that the majority of Americans want, and that is to put a stop to illegal immigration. Donald Trump understands that enforcing the laws and building that wall are paramount to what the will of the people is, and thank God he's still preaching that, because if he were not, then there would be a huge erosion of support. Yeah,
I would guess so. But let's talk a little bit about the, granted, the wall goes up, you keep illegals out, and I think every GOP or on all, the full spectrum of the right would agree with that. What about the amnesty part? What about the part of the 11 or 12 million who are still here, not sending them back, whether it's a path of citizenship, letting them stay, or just letting them stay? Your thoughts?
Well, we have to quit incentivizing those who are here illegally, keeping them here by not employing them, not giving them free health care, free college, free phones, free Happy Meals, free anything. There is such an incentive to keep people here who are here. They have trespassed illegally. And, Trump really needs to focus on that, is the disincentive that must be put into play in order for these people to not be here. And softening on the position of illegal immigration isn't going to win over any supporters. More importantly, though, it's not going to help our nation not at all.
There's a school of thought, though, Governor, that says that Donald Trump's base is so interested in voting for Donald Trump, it doesn't matter really how much he wavers on his original proposals. They'll vote for him no matter what. And this may be the thing that takes maybe independents over or brings over some Latin Americans, Hispanics, to come over to vote for Donald Trump.
Well, granted, you just have to do your ABCs, anybody but Clinton, to understand that no matter what Trump does on immigration, it's going to be better than what Hillary will do, which is incentivize more illegals to come on over and continue this unsustainable, unaffordable, and unfair incentivizing, as we're $200 trillion in unfunded liability in debt, our nation. Hillary will employ practices to just perpetuate that. So anything that Trump does is better. But so why would it be that independents or right-thinking Democrats would want to come over to Trump's side just based on this issue once they realize that our nation in such sinful debt as we're leaving to our children and our grandchildren, the right, trillions and trillions of dollars? Why would anyone?
Because Governor, there's a whole group. There's a whole group, as you well know, of establishment right Republicans who can't vote for Trump or won't vote for Trump. They don't like his policy. They don't like his no immigration policy, his wall policy, his not allowing illegals to stay. They want a bigger tent. They want to have a little bit more of an amnesty program for illegals. Maybe that he can garner some of that support, or is that support just never going to vote for Trump?
They're never going to vote for Trump. Those who would like America to not enforce the laws that are on our books, American administrators and law enforcement officers to not enforce our laws, why have them on the book then? No, people who are of that mind, thinking that just because there is a law on the books that would prohibit illegals from coming on over and receiving all of their freebies, trespassing is the first thing that they do on our soil, that they should be rewarded. Well, they're not going to vote for Trump anyway, as Trump says, no, we're not going to put up with that. Otherwise, we are not a sovereign and secure nation anymore if we don't have these secure borders. So, no, what Trump, I wish that he would focus on are those legal immigrants who agree with his sound policy, his proposed policy that would create disincentives for illegals.
Governor, would you prefer Donald Trump stay rigid on the deporting the 11 or 12 million if you're here illegally, let them come back in legally, but deporting them first? Would you prefer him stay on that stance?
I would prefer politicians to not campaign one way and then govern another way. We want to know that they are candid and sincere in the policies that they are proposing as candidates, and then once they are in that administration, that they will stick to it. Again, Trump can be very, very strong on policies that would create disincentives for trespassers into our nation. And if he's strong on that shores up support that he's enjoyed thus far and that he will be gaining as more and more of Hillary's corruption comes to light in people's...
Governor, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Straight ahead, Donald Trump calling Hillary Clinton a bigot, and Hillary is hitting back with the new personal attacks. Will they work in their favor? Karl Rove joins us in a minute. In the Impact segment tonight, a brawl over bigotry between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Trump is bringing his criticism of Hillary Clinton to new heights after saying this during a rally in Mississippi last night.
Hillary Clinton is a bigot who sees people of color only as votes, not as human beings worthy of a better future. She's going to do nothing for African Americans. She's going to do nothing for the Hispanics. She's only going to take care of herself, her husband, her consultants, her donors. These are the people she cares about. She doesn't care what her policies have done to your communities.
Earlier today in Reno, Nevada, Hillary Clinton shot back, accusing the Trump campaign with seeking the support of racists and far-right zealots.
From the start, Donald Trump has built his campaign on prejudice and paranoia. He is taking hate groups mainstream and helping a radical fringe take over the Republican Party. His disregard for the values that make our country great is profoundly dangerous.
Joining us now with reaction from Austin, Texas, former senior advisor to President George W. Bush, Mr. Karl Rove. Karl, wow, gloves are off, bare-knuckle fighting going on.
Yeah, and neither one of us helping themselves, in my opinion, by taking this tone. Trump should not have called her a bigot. It's fine to say she's going to be focused on rewarding her donors and her consultants and her lackeys and so forth. And her policies, with policies that are not going to advance the cause of African Americans or Latinos or working class Americans. But it's another thing to call her a bigot. In politics, you always want to have people come to their own conclusion. If that's the conclusion that he wanted them to come to, then describe the specifics and let the people come to their own conclusion.
You know, he's got this new line of attack on her, actually trying to bring people to himself, the African American vote to himself. He says, "What the hell do you have to lose?" And then he talks about all the cities that have had they've had Democrat rule and have such bad things going on for African Americans. You think of Chicago, you think of Philadelphia, you think of Newark, you think of St. Louis, Baltimore, on and on. Democrat rules, and things aren't going well for blacks. So he went and try and paint the picture, draw a line between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton with the bigot line. No?
But look, it's better. That's the opening part of the argument. Look at what's happened to you for the last 60 or 70 years. But the second part of it is not to call her a bigot, but to say, here's what I will do to make your life better. And it is in that second part that he advantages himself. He doesn't advantage himself by calling her a bigot, in my opinion.
Karl, is he calling Hillary Clinton a bigot? Because, earlier today he said, and I'm quoting him, every policy HRC supports is a policy that has failed and betrayed communities of color. I understand it as
that's fine.
She's a Democrat, therefore African Americans aren't being helped under Democrats, so therefore they're bigoted.
That's the kind of language you should have, not what he said last night. Go back and replay your own piece of film. He said Hillary Clinton is a bigot. Those are her words, not mine. So, yeah, he did call her a bigot. So that was a mistake. He should have used language like you suggested. Now, let's be equal about this. Her language today is wrong, including, take a look. She has this video in which she shows the Ku Klux Klan officials and so forth.
Let me play it. Hold on. Let me play it. Let the audience see and you can react. Go ahead.
The reason a lot of Klan members like Donald Trump is because a lot of what he believes, we believe in. Donald Trump would be best for the job.
For president.
Yeah.
I am a farmer and white nationalist. Support Donald Trump.
Sending out all the illegals, building a wall, and a moratorium on Islamic immigration. That's very appealing to a lot of ordinary white people.
Against Donald Trump at this point is really treason to your heritage.
Carl, it's the same thing, is it not?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. In fact, you left out the closing line of that. It is, if Donald Trump gets elected, quote, they could be running the country. That is just laughable. Hillary Clinton is just gone beyond the edge here on this. This is lunacy. No candidate should be held responsible for the random comments of anonymous supporters whom they've never met and never done anything. Now, Trump has two vulnerabilities on this. One vulnerability is that he has put in charge of his campaign as a CEO, Steve Bannon, whose website, Breitbart.com, has become an acknowledged voice for the alt-right. That was a problem, and he's going to have to deal with that. The other problem was that early in the campaign, David Duke came out and said something favorable towards Trump, and it took Trump a couple of days to clean it up, and that created an opening for this. But I would remind you this. Cher introduced Hillary Clinton at a fundraiser this week, and I think it was Martha's Vineyard, and called him twice a Hitler, said he was a child murderer.
Yeah, that's been going on a lot.
Let me finish. Let me finish. Said he was insane, called him a racist, said he reminded her of despots like Stalin. I mean, she's comparing him to the murder of 6 million Jews. And what does Hillary say when she took the stage? Quote, I can't tell you how excited I am to have Cher here.
You know
so
what,
if it was a mistake for Donald Trump not to disavow David Duke immediately, it's a mistake for Hillary Clinton not to disavow Cher immediately when she was in the same room on the same platform.
The rhetoric is stepped up. Carl, I'm going to say thank you very much. Next on the rundown, reaction from the other side of the aisle over the new offensive between the Trump and Clinton campaigns. That debate moments away. In the Factor follow-up segment tonight, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton's war of words over bigotry. Joining us now from Chicago with reaction from the left, Austin Goolsbee, the former chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors under President Obama. So, Austin, man, ratcheted up rhetoric. Your thoughts? Is this, Karl Rove says, is a bad place to be going? Your thoughts?
Hey, look, I don't like it when the campaign goes in this direction. I mean, it's clear that the characterization by Trump's campaign manager that he doesn't insult anyone else and he doesn't launch personal attacks is completely absurd. You see him launching the "you're a bigot," and it kind of reminds me of the old, the first guy to accuse everyone of being a cheater is the guy who's the cheater.
Yeah, but Austin, earlier today, this was after the original bigot comment, but earlier today he said, I'm quoting his words, every policy that Hillary Clinton supports is a policy that has failed and betrayed communities of color. Is he saying she's a bigot, or is he saying that he's saying the Democrat policies are bigoted?
Well, when his quote was Hillary Clinton is a bigot, I think he's saying Hillary Clinton is a bigot. That's what he said. If all he wanted to talk about was let's discuss welfare reform, let's discuss the earned income tax credit and what are urban policies, great. I would have welcomed such a policy discussion.
Are they bigoted, urban policies? How about all these cities I rattled off? Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore, St. Louis, Oakland, Newark, Philadelphia. They're all Democrat-run, and they're all hurting the African-American community.
They are, in many of those cities, they have low incomes, and they've struggled. And when they struggled absolutely the most was in the horrible recession of 2008 and 2009. So we can have that discussion if you want.
No, they're still
That's
struggling,
from
Austin. You're a very smart man. You're an economist. You know they're not getting better in the last 10 years, and 8 of them being under Obama.
In the last 5 years, they've gotten substantially better. Yes, they have.
In what way? We have poverty peaking higher than it was 50 years ago.
Incomes are up. The poverty rate has fallen.
Unemployment is coming down for non-African Americans.
No, in the last 5 years, you've seen improvement. We've grown at a modest rate, but you have seen improvement for the last 5 years, for sure.
Austin, I'm gonna push back on that. I think young African Americans are out of work at the highest rate they've been in maybe decades, and this is under 8 years of President Obama. All right, well, whatever. No, I will tell you that certainly incomes aren't up. They're not up. Their wages aren't up. Look, unemployment isn't better.
Eric, the thing is this. Donald Trump is trying to do this because he's trying to get attention. He's trying to take the focus off of his put the rainbow wig on and put on the Groucho Marx glasses and pretend like the guy who talked about Muslims, who talked about immigration, who talked about women, who talked about Hispanics, minorities. That other guy from the primaries, we don't know what happened to that guy. This is a new Trump.
All right.
I don't think it's going to work.
Dr. Goolsbee, I got to leave it right there. I'm going to say thank you very much. Coming up, new developments in the Clinton Foundation controversy. The head of Judicial Watch enters the no-spin zone to give us the latest. Stay tuned. In the Unresolved Problems segment tonight, the Clinton Foundation controversy with new pay-to-play allegations swirling. The Clintons are on the defensive, with Bill Clinton now outlining major changes to the foundation if Hillary is elected.
I made it clear that if she becomes president, we'll have to do more than we did when she was Secretary of State. We're going to transition all these responsibilities that would require foreign or corporate donations, which I won't accept, and I won't raise money for the foundation if she wins. And I'm happy to do the transition as quickly as we can. We've already found partners who want to take over some of this stuff. But we have to do it in a way that no one loses their job, no one loses their income, and no one loses their life. That's all I'm concerned about.
Meanwhile, there are more questions about a possible FBI investigation into the Clinton Foundation. I asked Clinton Cash author Peter Schweitzer about it on The Factor last night. Do you think the FBI is investigating currently, and do you think there should be a special prosecutor?
Well, I don't know the exact status of what the FBI is doing now. I will say that earlier this year, at their request, I sat down with two people from the Bureau to talk about some things related to the Clinton Foundation, specifically things that were in Clinton Cash. And there's no question in my mind, based on that conversation, that they had an advanced knowledge of the Clinton Foundation and some of these issues.
Joining us with reaction now from Washington, Tom Fitton, the president of Judicial Watch and author of the upcoming book, Clean House, Exposing Our Government's Secrets and Lies. And from Miami, Julian Epstein, a Democratic strategist. Now, Julian, you heard former President Clinton saying, if Hillary wins, we're going to make some major changes to the foundation. Why not now?
Because she's not in a position of official capacity right now. If she becomes an elected official, namely President of the United States, then you have a potential for a conflict of interest.
Wait, and it's not a conflict now, Julian? You don't think any of the stuff that's been going on is a
public official right now?
Well, she was.
She's not a public official.
From 2009 to 2013, she was a public official and doing business with both the Clinton Foundation and for the state.
And during that time, there were very clear rules that were laid out. There was a negotiation between the State Department and the Obama White House in terms of exactly what ethical rules would govern that conduct. And nobody, including this AP story that I know you want to get to about these 80 meetings, nobody, not Tom, not anybody else has said.
I don't want to get to those.
You know, I
want to take issue with what you just said.
No evidence.
The Obama administration recommended that Hillary Clinton set up an advisory board. Guess who headed up the advisory board about all the things that she should or should not be able to do? Guess who headed that up? Hillary Clinton headed that one up. Tom Fitton.
There was a specific agreement between the State Department and the Obama administration about how to conduct business.
Set up a commission and head it yourself.
And none of the ethical rules, none of the State Department ethical rules on any matter relating to the Clinton Foundation was violated. Nobody has shown any evidence whatsoever, Eric, that any donation to the Clinton Foundation was conditioned on access to meeting with
who may have uncovered some of that exact evidence. Tom Fitton, go ahead. Judicial Watch. What have you found?
I don't understand what Julian's saying. There's plenty of evidence showing misconduct. Mrs. Clinton promised there'd be a bright line between the foundation and the State Department. Donors to the foundation were able to get special consideration at the State Department from former officials at the foundation working for Hillary, her two top aides, Cheryl Mills and Yuma Abedin, who shouldn't have been involved in foundation business either, at least for the first 2 years. And then secondly, you've got the foundation promising specifically to not engage in activity that even created the appearance of a conflict of interest. And contrary to partisan talking points being put out by our other guest here, you have the Boston Globe responding negatively to this, calling on the foundation to be shut down. You've got front page stories in media outlets across the country that aren't terribly friendly to Judicial Watch or the conservative way of looking at things. And you've got the Clintons themselves running away from the foundation in response to these revelations to try to tamp out the fire. Yet it does not go as far as they'd like you to think it goes, because Chelsea Clinton is going to continue to be on the board of the foundation. She hasn't promised to stop fundraising. They're continuing to be able to take money from foreign corporations and foreign governments right now as this person is running for the presidency. If Julian thinks that's appropriate, then he's probably the only person in America who thinks it's appropriate for a sitting candidate for president to take money from foreign nationals. You think it's okay for the Russians to give Hillary Clinton money right now?
Tom, if you stop the filibuster.
Do you think it's okay, Julian?
Tom, let him answer.
Yeah, I think so. Foreign entities give to the Bush Foundation, to the Carter Foundation, all kinds of foundations.
Are they running for president?
The problem with what Tom just said, Tom just said in his 45 seconds that were uninterrupted, is that he made a lot of general statements and he failed to make any specific statement that would be tied to an ethical rule that showed there was a violation. His biggest, latest new thing, again, which is a big nothing burger, is this allegation that Clinton Foundation donators, people that donated to the foundation, got special access to Hillary Clinton. There is no evidence whatsoever that the giving of the donation was tied to a meeting. There's nothing that should be unexpected about people that are interested in the Clinton Foundation also being interested in important matters affecting international affairs that may have legitimate interest before the Department of State. And these donors represented 5% of the total meetings, at least according to the AP report. 5% of the total universe of meetings that the secretary had while she was Secretary of State.
Again, when you add in all the official business, when you take out the official business, Julian, it's over 50% of the non-State Department business. 50% of the people who met with Hillary Clinton ended up becoming donors. Tom, let me ask you this.
And I think that number's wrong. That number's wrong. That number's got to be wrong.
Well, then have probably the least partisan news organization.
Well, let me tell you why it's wrong.
You're saying they're playing partisan politics in favor of the
because what AP is saying, Eric, is that Secretary Clinton had 154 meetings during a period of 4 years from 2009 to 2012 with non-governmental officials. Yeah. That's insane. She probably had that many meetings in a month if you include the journalists she met with, civil society officials she met with.
Julian, hold on. Julian, now you're filibustering. Let me give Tom the last word here. Now, Tom, you have some Judicial Watch. You have some news that may be coming out soon?
Well, we may be getting emails as soon as September 13th on Benghazi, and the new emails that Mrs. Clinton unsuccessfully evidently tried to delete but were recovered by the FBI. So there may be new emails coming out about Benghazi and Miss Abedin's special government employee status, where she worked for the State Department and the Clinton Foundation at the same time, which I guess our other guest has no problem with her doing that. And those new emails may be coming out as soon as September 13th. Another group at September 30th. So new Benghazi emails and conflict of interest emails next month.
All right, we're going to leave right there. Tom,
Julian,
I got to go, my man. I got to go. Running up against heartbreak, I need to leave it right here. A quick footnote. If you'd like to hear more about the Clinton email issues, Mr. Finn is featured on the Contributing Factor podcast, which you can find on BillO'Reilly.com and iTunes. But up next, what do voters hate most about what Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are saying in public? Frank Luntz joins us to reveal his exclusive findings right after this. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Eric Bolling in for Bill O'Reilly. And in the personal story segment tonight, what Americans hate hearing from Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Pollster Frank Luntz did some exclusive research for The Factor, working with 24 registered voters in Philadelphia to find out what Clinton and Trump's statements during the campaign upset them most. First up, Hillary Clinton.
You know, in '76, Jimmy Carter famously said, "I will not lie to you."
Well, I have to tell you, I have tried in every way I know how, literally from my years as a young lawyer all the way through my time as Secretary of State, to level with the American people.
You talk about leveling with the American people. Have you always told the truth?
I've always tried to. Always. Always.
Some people are going to call that wiggle room that you just gave yourself. Always tried to.
No, I've always tried
Jimmy Carter said, "I will never lie to you."
You know, you're asking me to say, have I ever? I don't believe I ever have. I don't believe I ever have. I don't believe I ever will.
All right, joining us now in studio with more, Frank Luntz. Wow, falling off the edge of that chart there.
We have done hours and hours, probably now about 30 hours worth of speeches of the candidates. and another 500 ads. And that is the worst response we have ever tested. And it's simple. You either tell the truth or you don't. You don't try to. It's not your intent to. You do or you don't. And the question that Scott Pelley asked her, at least Jimmy Carter said, I will never lie to you. So they look at that and say, you know what? She's not authentic. She's not honest. And that's why 2/3 of Americans don't believe she has the integrity to be president of the United States.
All right, let's take a listen to another Hillary Clinton, see how she did it with the dials on this one.
I remember landing under sniper fire. There was supposed to be some kind of a greeting ceremony at the airport, but instead we just ran with our heads down to get into the vehicles, get to our base.
Problem is, that's not what happened. We should know. CBS News accompanied the First Lady and daughter Chelsea on that Bosnia trip. That's Senator Clinton talking to me on the military flight into Tuzla. And these are the pictures we recorded of the greeting ceremony when the plane landed. Compare that to Senator Clinton's account.
Remember landing under sniper fire. There was no greeting ceremony, and we basically were told to run to our cars. Now that is what happened.
Well, look at that, Frank. Even the Democrats on the bottom of the green number, they were even more disappointed with Hillary's answer.
So here's what I don't understand. You've got those two amazing examples, and I don't hear anything from the Trump campaign. Why aren't they talking about it? Why aren't they showing it? Why aren't they part of the ads? Why aren't they part of the town halls? Why aren't they part of anything? Over the last 48 hours, Hillary Clinton has been under a systemic attack for her integrity that is actually working. And what is Donald Trump doing? He's insulting her and calling her a bigot in Mississippi, of all places, a state that if he can't win, then he's going to lose in the biggest landslide ever. I don't understand that campaign.
Well, this whole bigot thing seemed to really resonate because now she's hitting back Donald Trump.
And you know why she's
she
doing
doesn't
that?
want that to stick.
Do you know why she wants that? Because it will never stick. They've now changed the issue. For 48 hours, it was her emails and improper behavior of the Clinton Global Initiative. And now suddenly the issue has changed, and she's loving every minute of it. I know that your viewers, I know what they care about this campaign, and I know what they want to have happen. Well, I'm sorry, but unless Donald Trump gets his act together, and unless that campaign starts to focus on what voters really care about, which is the integrity of the next president, then they're going to lose. And you got one more.
Let's do it. Let's see how Trump did.
Have you ever been to Arlington Cemetery? Go look at the graves of brave patriots who died defending United States of America. You will see all faiths, genders, and ethnicities. You have sacrificed nothing and no one.
How would you answer that, Father? What sacrifice have you made for your country?
I think I made a lot of sacrifices. I worked very, very hard, created thousands and thousands of jobs, tens of thousands of jobs. I think
those are sacrifices?
Oh, sure, I think they're sacrifices. I think when I can employ thousands and thousands of people, take care of their education, take care of so many things, even in military, I mean, I was very responsible, along with a group of people, for getting the Vietnam Memorial built in downtown Manhattan, which to this day people thank me for.
Well, no surprise, the Dems fell off the bottom of the map, too.
The Dems. So I learned something from my mom when my father passed away. And she said, as much pain as you feel right now losing your dad, there's nothing worse than a parent having to bury their child. And I don't know what he doesn't understand about that. I'm sorry, but creating jobs in New York City from the Trump Tower is not the same sacrifice, regardless of that couple's religion, regardless of whatever they've said. When you lose your son as an American hero, then you're missing something. And this is what I don't understand. Once again, it is as though he and the campaign are tone deaf. On this very show, we showed that clip of the Khan family speaking. It was the top clip of the Democratic convention. And yet he still goes after them.
Well, no. I think he realized after he did that he should have, because he had a great convention. Remember that he had just come off of a great convention where he actually took the lead.
Then my recommendation.
And then this happened, and it kind of took
he watches this
the ball.
He watches this show. My recommendation to you, Mr. Trump, is that at the opening of the debate on September 26th, you explicitly apologize to the Khan family and to John McCain, and then you turn to her and say, Madam Secretary, do you apologize to the parents of the young men who were killed in Benghazi because you didn't react? Do you apologize to the millions of Americans who you have misled through your foundation? If he does that...
Maybe you can work with the campaign as debate prep.
I don't want...
You can go get over to Trump Tower.
My job is to listen. My job is to listen to the American people.
I got to go. Frank, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Directly ahead, Donald Trump accelerating his shift on illegal immigration, but is it too late to make a difference for his campaign? That debate in a minute. In the election 2016 segment tonight, Donald Trump's softening on illegal immigration. Last night, Trump gave new details about how he'd handle illegal immigrants in the country.
They'll pay back taxes. They have to pay taxes. There's no amnesty as such. There's no amnesty.
Right.
But we work with them. Now, okay, but when I look at the rooms, and I have this all over, now, everybody agrees we get the bad ones out. But when I go through and I meet thousands and thousands of people on this subject, and I've had very strong people come up to me, really great, great people come up to me, and they've said, Mr. Trump, I love you. But to take a person that's been here for 15 or 20 years and throw them and the family out, it's so tough, Mr. Trump. I mean, I have it all the time. It's a very, very hard thing.
Trump is appearing to back away from his previous calls to deport all illegal immigrants from the country, but will this have a positive impact with his voters? Joining us now with reaction from Washington, Chris Wilson, former advisor to the Cruz presidential campaign, along with Jack Kingston, a senior advisor to the Trump campaign. To start with you, Chris, your thoughts on this. Now, look, I heard Donald Trump right there in that soundbite say this isn't about amnesty. But, you know, in this sense, is amnesty only about citizenship? Talk to me.
Well, it's what it is I understand what the Trump campaign is trying to do. They're trying to soften the rhetoric. They're trying to pivot for a general election, and I get that. But the challenge I think exists here is the promises that Donald Trump made during the primary and what that is now becoming for the general election. And this is what's wrong with politics. And frankly, it's why Donald Trump is the nominee, is because the Republican primary electorate was so tired of electing people who promised something when they ran for office and then pivoted into a softer position in the general election, or even worse, did nothing at all once they got elected. And Trump campaigned against that. He took strong stands against it. He did a great job of tapping into a very angry Republican primary electorate, but now he is doing exactly what the people who elected him were angry about, which is changing that position. And whether you agree it's the right position or the wrong position, I think politically it's probably a smart thing for him to do.
Well, so why isn't that good enough then? I mean, if politically the right decision, you'd want to go with the politically correct decision, wouldn't you?
Well, no, not necessarily. I think sometimes you make a promise to voters, and there's value in living up to that. And that's what Senator Cruz said toward the end, is that Donald Trump was fooling the voters. He was trying to take the brand and slap his brand on the political process the same way he did in water and steaks and wine and everything else. And it falls apart. And that's what happened here, is the promises he made to the Republican primary electorate are now falling apart.
Is Chris right in saying that he came out with a platform early in the campaign, and he has to stick with it all the way through the general election?
Well, I think he is sticking with it. I think he's been consistent on a couple of very, very important points. Number one, enforcing existing laws, which, by the way, is going to dry up the job magnets, because that also means the employers have to quit hiring illegals. Number two, he's been very consistent about a wall, maybe not bricks and mortars, but a wall that will keep people from coming into the border illegally. And number three, no amnesty, which is perhaps the biggest issue with the Republican base. Hillary Clinton is a pro-amnesty person. And then another part of this is protecting American jobs, because he has said repeatedly that illegals undercut the wage
everyone
scale.
says that, though. That's pretty consistent along the GOP. The line is that illegals take jobs away from Americans. But talk to me, Jack. You just said something, kind of two things. You said provocatively that not necessarily bricks and mortar wall. I'm under the, I do this for a living here, and I thought it was a bricks and mortar wall, number one. And number two, when you say no amnesty and you let illegals stay, isn't that a form of amnesty?
Well, let me address the wall first. As you know, the wall has been voted on many times for many years by members of the House. It's been killed in the Senate, but I think in some areas it is totally sufficient to have a cyber wall. But he has been pretty consistent about a wall. So I don't think he's backing off of that whatsoever. Number two, on amnesty, he's saying no amnesty. So, but he's also saying let's do this in a humane and orderly way. So he wants to get the bad actors out. out and start with them and then move down the line. And I think without the jobs here, because you're enforcing existing laws, you're going to have less motivation for people to want to come here or to stay here because the laws say you can't be here.
Right. Chris, I'm going to take a little issue with you here because, look, you guys on the left, or not on the left, but also the no Trump people have said, look, he can't. He's doing it wrong. This is too hardcore for the GOP. The GOP needs to encompass more diversity. And now he says, I'm at least thinking about softening my stance. And now you don't like it this way either.
Well, first of all, let me be clear. I'm not never Trump. I would love to be able to vote for Donald Trump. What I can't vote for is someone who takes a position on an issue in a primary
what is
and
it,
changes
Chris?
of that.
You just said, I'd like to vote for Trump. So what's the issue with Trump that you can't vote for him?
I don't think,
it was
frankly,
immigration.
I don't think he's a
What's
conservative.
left?
Because I don't think he's a conservative. I think he did exactly what he was accused of doing in the primary when he did the secret meeting with the New York Times that was taped, and that it was leaked that he made the comment that this is all an act. In the general election, if I get elected president, I will never actually do this. I won't build a wall. I won't enforce these immigration laws. This is all just something I'm saying because I have to win a primary. And to me, that is what is wrong with politics. It's what if that is how Donald Trump won the nomination under false pretenses, no, he shouldn't be elected president.
All right, we're going to have to leave it right there, gentlemen. Thank you very much. When we come right back, can Donald Trump successfully expand his outreach to minorities and women? Dana Perino has some very provocative thoughts on that upcoming. In the Back of the Book segment tonight, Trump and his campaign are making the hard sell to minority and women voters that he has something to offer them, with his campaign manager Kellyanne Conway making the case earlier today.
I've known Donald Trump for a long time. I respect his business record. I respect the fact that even before he promoted me to this position, he's been promoting and advancing women in the Trump Corporation for decades. People of color, people from very different countries across the world, both genders, obviously, all walks of life. That's very compelling to me because I like to assess people by what they do, not by what they say. And I think that's particularly important in politics where everybody has a lot to say.
Joining us now to analyze, Dana Perino, my fellow co-host of The Five. Dana, are they making the case? Are they making the case well enough?
Well, they're going to try to make the case. I just think that, I'm all for trying to make the case. It's coming at a very late date in the campaign. And Donald Trump is underperforming with every demographic. So I'm for reaching out to Latinos and African Americans and women and whoever else he might want to try to reach out to. At this point in the campaign, I would imagine that Kellyanne Conway is looking at the map and saying, okay, how do we get to 270 electoral votes? And where can we find enough African Americans or Latinos in order to make a difference?
Is it Latinos, is it women, or is it African American? One of these groups...
He's underperforming with all of them.
Right, so which is the one he should go after?
Well, I think that in some ways, and people have said this before, that perhaps what Kellyanne Conway is doing is trying to convince college-educated white women, which have usually voted GOP, but have gone against Donald Trump in the last several months, trying to convince them that he's not the cruel man that you think that he is, that he does have better policy ideas than Hillary Clinton. But then again, I think that it's a little bit like whistling past the graveyard. On Latinos in particular, there's just some raw numbers that they have to look at. In 2000, George W. Bush won 40% of the Hispanic vote, 44% in 2004. After that, it started backsliding for the GOP to the point that Romney needed 40%, 35 to 40%, of the Hispanic vote in order to win. He got 27%. Donald Trump is polling at under 20, and demographers say that he probably needs at least 40 in order to try to win. And if you look at those key states, battleground states, where Colorado, Nevada, Ohio, North Carolina, there are a lot more Hispanic voters. And this kind of outreach cannot erase what has already been on tape and in tweets.
What about that? And it's been talked about lately. It's bubbling up a little bit more. That factor that I don't even know what they call it. It's a Trump factor, where people, when they're polled, won't say they would be willing to vote for Trump, but they'll hang up the phone and go, "I'm going to
secretly vote for Trump." There might be some of that there. I think that, the Quinnipiac poll that came out just today has Hillary Clinton at the magical number of 50. Now, the things that could change in the next few weeks are the debates, in particular, and also the ads. And I think Donald Trump has to be worried about that a little bit. I mean, Hillary Clinton decided to go after him today, trying to tie him to a racist alt-right movement. He tried to push back in a pre-buttal, which I think was somewhat effective, but she hasn't even begun to run ads.
Why did she do that?
I think that some people have suggested that Hillary Clinton did that because they are worried that Trump is making inroads with the minority voters.
Right.
I don't believe that for one second. I think she wants to bury the Republican Party, and she is using this fringe racist and bigoted alt-right movement to try to do that, to try to paint anybody who calls themselves a Republican as part of that group, and that he opened the door to them. I don't know if that is true. I don't think it's fair, and I have fought against anybody suggesting that the Republicans are racist my entire career. But I think what she tried to do is press her advantage.
The softening on his deportation stance, that doesn't solve some of the issues he has with that, how about this, with women?
It might. I mean, I think that's actually what Kellyanne Conway is going for, because a lot of married white women in particular, and college-educated women, had gone for Republicans in the past. At this time around, he's polling so badly with them. The thing is that women and other voters say, I don't trust either one of them. Actually, they trust him a lot more than they trust her. Quinnipiac poll, she's at a minus 66%. Okay, that is, I don't know how she comes back from that. But if you look at the other measurements, is she competent, does she have the temperament, the judgment, she's beating him there. So can he turn that around? And giving a rally in Mississippi with a white audience talking about African-American issues in Jackson, Mississippi, it doesn't make sense.
That was the issue they all had with Donald Trump, right? Give your speech to African-Americans and minorities in the person.
And Ben Carson says he's going to do that, so that might be able to get him at least some good press.
I will leave it right there. Dana, thank you so much. That's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Eric Balling in for Bill O'Reilly, and please remember the spin stops right here because we're looking out for you.